Good afternoon, everyone. It is now 6:30, and I call to order this meeting of the Lincoln County Planning Commission. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and the order of events tonight will be as follows. For each public hearing, staff will introduce the agenda item and present a summary of the staff report. The applicant will then be asked to explain their proposal in further detail and to answer any questions from the Planning Commission members. I will then open the floor to public comment, first for persons in support of the application, and then for persons in opposition of the application. When you step up to the podium, please state your name, address, and speak clearly into the microphone. Each speaker will have the chance to speak once and should keep their comments to less than 5 minutes. Speakers are encouraged to only address new and relevant information pertaining to the item. Above all, please be cordial to all meeting participants and refrain from side conversations, speaking out of turn, or you'll be asked to leave. Lastly, decisions on rezone applications will be scheduled for an additional public hearing during upcoming County Board of Commissioners meeting. Decisions on conditional use permit applications may be appealed to the County Board of Commissioners by submitting a letter to the County Planning and Zoning Office within 5 business days. All right, we got that out of there. So next I will do roll call. Commissioner Hogan?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Green?
Here.
And Commissioner Jungling is also here. We have 4, so we have a quorum. All right, approval of the meeting minutes. I assume everyone saw the meeting minutes of the last. Are there any changes or corrections to make?
No.
All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes.
Second, Green.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All right, I'll do roll call. Commissioner Hogan?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. All right, that passes. Approval of the meeting agenda for tonight. Mr. Brown, is there any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioners, any adjustments you'd like to make to the agenda?
Nope.
Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as published. Green.
Second, Johnson.
Motion and second. Any additional conversation? All right, I'll do roll call to approve. Commissioner Hogan?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
And Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. All right, at this time, I'll ask for public input on non-agenda items. So if anybody would like to come up and address the Planning Commission on anything that's not on the agenda, feel free. All right, seeing none, I will close the floor. And old business, anything to discuss, Mr. Brown?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And that will go to public hearings, application number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This first item before you this evening is a conditional use permit application. The applicant and property owner is Avery Zahn. Location of this property is about 4.7 miles southeast of the city of Lenox. Subject property is zoned light industrial. This property was recently rezoned by the Board of Commissioners, and so our parcel map hasn't been updated, but as it's shown in commercial, it's actually light industrial. The parcel size is approximately 4.69 acres, and the property is currently improved with a couple buildings, one a / garage office, and then another one a warehouse type structure. And the purpose of this application is the applicant, if you recall from the rezoning, is involved in a business or an operation that takes recyclable materials and turns them into what I would call end user type products. Specifically at this time, I think his latest item was fence posts. I'll try to get this on here so I can get on the doc cam. So I did have, after the publication of the agenda, the applicant did submit a site plan to the office and identified some utilization of the current buildings on the property and then some additional buildings onto the property. And so I'll let the applicant kind of go into more detail on that part of the application. But I'll reference you back to the staff report that staff provided. And staff identified that this application, specifically light manufacturing use in the I-1 Light Industrial District, is consistent with the Code of Ordinances. And if approved, staff would recommend the following conditions that were placed in the staff report. Did not put a condition of a site plan on this, but don't really feel it's crucial at this point in time. But I will let the applicant go through kind of the site plan that he did submit. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. This time I'll ask the applicant to come forward and talk about their application.
Avery Zahn, 28054, 472nd Avenue, Worthing. Yeah, as Toby was talking about, we've met with you guys before. We're starting a manufacturing company within Lincoln County that takes all of trash plastic and we recycle it into end user products. Our main thing that we're producing is fence posts for farmers and ranchers. We're looking at doing dimensional lumber out of plastic, 2x4s, 4x4s, 2x6s, picnic tables, park benches, anything that we can make out of recyclable plastics, and finding a end user product out of that raw material is what we're looking at doing. On the site plan, you'll see that my 2-year-old drew for me that we have our existing shop, and it'd be to the west of it. We're looking for a shop expansion. Our existing shop right now currently is an 80 by 120. We're looking at adding a 80 by 100 onto the west of that existing shop. And that's the factory that will have our extruders that will create the end user products. The future material building to the east, the larger square, is a 120 by 200, what we're looking at currently. I'll be speaking with Toby later on as far as setbacks and making sure we're meeting all the setback requirements for the future expansion of the building. But our goal is to have everything indoors versus outside. We don't want to have raw material outdoors. We want everything under the roof. That's our end goal. We do have in the circle there, the end product area and loading. We'll have semis coming in there and loading out product every day. We'll produce currently right now our rate when we turn on after this permit is issued, or hopefully issued, that we'll produce 600 fence posts a day at our current rate. And so that area is designated for that, and it could change depending on production and where the buildings are set upon approval with Toby. Our existing office right now is outside the fence in a smaller square there, and we have a fence that divides our future shop and our existing shop. Our goal is to enclose the entire property in a fence that's in addition to the fence that's already there. It's a chain link fence with barbed wire on top, and then having gates for entering both into an exit and an enter gate into the facility. And then to the west of our existing office, we're looking at doing a future office expansion. This right now currently was our 3 to 5 year plan. We're probably looking at with the orders we've been given and the teaming up of municipalities and counties in the surrounding area, we're probably looking at a 1 to 2 year plan for all this expansion to happen. So it's growing rather rapidly, and we haven't even started technically. But it's good, positive things, and yeah, we're looking forward to it.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? None? Thank you, Avery.
Yep, thank you.
All right, at this time, I'll ask anybody in favor, support of the application, please come forward and speak. All right, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application, come forward and speak. All right, seeing none, I will close the floor to public input, and I'll ask a motion from the commission so we can discuss.
Mr. Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the conditional use permit with the conditions and findings.
Second, Green.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I think we probably discussed this more the last time he was here, but it just seems like a real up-and-coming project that I'm excited for you guys to be working on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm part of our City Sioux Falls Sustainability Program, and this fits right in there and checks all the boxes, so I'm excited for you and excited for the program. Commissioner Hogan, do you have any comment or questions?
Nope, I agree with what you all said. I think it's going to be a good project and a good fit for us.
Thank you. Well, with that, I will do roll call. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
and Commissioner Jungling is also a yes. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Mr. Brown, item number 2.
Okay, the second item is an application for a conditional use permit. The applicant for this is LMMS LLC, and the property owner is Rutten Structures, Inc. This location of this property is approximately 1,600 feet to the west of the city of Canton corporate limits. Property is currently Zone C commercial. Property is currently developed with a number of structures on the property, warehousing, mini storage, personal storage, warehousing, and then a structure that's utilized for what a multitude of uses, offices, contractor shops, and that. Of note, this property was issued a conditional use permit for motor vehicle sales, and that conditional use permit expired. And that was a previous applicant that was associated with that application. So the applicant did submit a site plan with the application, identified that he would be using what I would call the southern kind of west, or the southern west wing of the building, or east wing would probably be a better one, and would be utilizing that for motor vehicle sales. In discussions with the applicant and their representatives, identified that the applicant, and I'll let him explain if I'm getting this wrong, but the applicant currently owns a repair business in Sioux Falls, and so it would utilize this as property as sales for some of those vehicles that they're in the repair business with and things like that. So again, primarily a motor vehicle type sales operation. So staff did review the application, did, as I mentioned, have some discussion with the applicant's representatives, and identified that this application for motor vehicle sales is consistent with the Lincoln County Code of Ordinances. And if approved, staff would recommend the 4 conditions that were included with the staff report. And again, these types of conditions, staff consistently tries to apply these conditions to this type of operation. So typically, inoperable vehicles, they have to be operable, and designated parking and those kind of things that we've identified over the years that can become nuisance type items to the property. So again, staff does find that this application is consistent with the ordinances. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for staff.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to ask the applicant to come forward and tell us more about their proposal.
Name's Mike Kramer. The address in question is the 48762 Highway 18. It's a structure we've already leased. We had other plans in the beginning. In the past, I've always worked with someone else as a dealer's license to sell some cars, and I just decided it's time to have our own license, and this would be a good fit. The traffic is actually probably the biggest driving factor for me. So we do run a repair shop in Sioux Falls, so we obviously fix our own stuff and then have plans to bring it down here and display it for sale.
Sure, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Your repairs, are you doing like mechanical repairs or body repairs or?
I primarily do mechanical. I've teamed up with a body shop. I let them do their thing and we do our thing.
So any of the vehicles that will be on display for sale would be finished and a finished product,
Yep.
nothing, to be fixed on the
Yeah.
site or any, I mean.
You know, occasionally we get an older classic type vehicle that may need some repair, you know, something like that, you know, may put it up for sale in the interim until we have time to mess with it. Some of that stuff, you're better off letting the customer buy it and do their own thing with it. But that'll be a very minute amount of the inventory.
So I do see a number of cars stored around the outside there that probably aren't for sale. They're being stored or used on or worked on or anything like that. Is that part of your business or is that renters?
No,
out
there's
there?
more than one. I mean, there's 3 bays there and across that front side. There are, I believe, 4 of them there that are mine, somewhat being just, I think I've only got a for sale sign on one of my personal vehicles sitting there right now. The rest of the stuff is just more or less occupying a spot until we get the license active.
Sure.
So I saw in the one picture, there was like 3 spots by the building and like 5 or 6, I think, closer to the road.
Yep.
And I know it says in here, for sale in the designated spots. Are the ones that were, I believe, purple, closer to the road, like were those the designated spots? Or on average, how many cars do you think you'll have for sale there at any given time?
I'm factoring about 5, 5 or 6 at the most.
Okay.
We don't have a ton of money to stick into this. We kind of want to shoot for that 3,000 and up area, at least stay away from some of the junk.
All right. Everyone good? Wendy, you all right?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. At this time, I will ask anybody in support of the application, please come forward and speak.
My name is John Bonger. I live at 47860 US Highway 18, right next to this facility. From my experience with the car dealer that was in there before, who had a health issue, was not able to complete his operation. The amount of traffic that I think that this gentleman would have would probably be no more than what's going in and out of there right now. As far as that goes, I look forward to working with him, keeping things up to date, keeping things clean. Like I said, living right next door to him. I can also help with a little bit of security because when Mr. Rutten had a storage unit that caught fire here not too long ago, I was one of them that saw the smoke and did call the fire department. There again, it's neighbor helping neighbor. So as far as the application goes, I am totally for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Anybody else in favor of the application? All right. Seeing none, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application. Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input, and I'll ask for a motion from the commission board.
Mr. Commissioner, I'll make a motion to approve with staff findings, the 4 contingencies that are.
I will second Hogan.
All right, motion and second. Any additional conversation, commissioners?
No, I just think that area of Canton, there are a lot of, places where their cars were sale. I think it fits in with kind of what's out in that area, so I'll be supportive of it.
Yep, I agree. So on the highway there is a good location. The neighbors support it, so that means a ton also. No further discussion. I'll do roll call. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
and Commissioner Jungley is also a yes. Congratulations. All right, item number 3, Mr. Brown.
Okay, this last item is an application for a conditional use permit as well. The applicant and property owner is Sarah Ron Thomas. Ron's the maiden name. Location of this property is approximately 4.3 miles southeast of the city of Lenox. Property is currently zoned A1 agricultural and is undeveloped. There is no structures currently on the property. The applicant has submitted an application to place a manufactured home, which does require a conditional use permit in the Lincoln County zoning ordinance. In addition to that, it does require some standards for what is a manufactured home. And again, for your reference and the public's reference, there is, when it comes to residential type structures, there's two main, what I would say, criteria. So if it's built stick-built, then it's built to what we call the IRC, the International Residential Code standards. If it's built to a HUD standard, which is off-site, and what I'll call separate standards from a typical stick-built home, that is a manufactured home per the definition in the Lincoln County zoning ordinance. And so I won't go into the details. There's some standards as far as overhangs and those types of things. But in general, what we tell people is that what's not allowed for placement in Lincoln County as of today would be a single wide. It would have to be a minimum of a double wide, and then typically it has to represent what is a typical stick-built home as far as roof pitch and what I would call roofing materials and things like that. So staff did review this application and did have further discussions with the applicant. And identified that this application is consistent with the standards, the rules and requirements for a manufactured home placement in Lincoln County. So staff does feel that this application is consistent with the Code of Ordinances, and if approved, staff recommends the 4 conditions that were placed in the staff report. With that, we'd happy to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
So this will use the building eligibility, that's all been
Correct.
cleared already?
Yep. Yeah, the property has to have a building eligibility for the placement of a manufactured home.
For my own information, what's that, you said we have to have 2 types of building. What was the first code? What building code do we follow?
So the county has adopted the 2018 International Residential Code, that's for residential structures.
2018, okay.
Yeah, so it's for simplification, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but HUD standards are lesser standards than the IRC residential code. So and that's really for affordability and those different types of things, but those are the different standards. So we don't enforce building code on the structure because the structure's already built. We enforce the placement of it as far as, making sure that the foundation, everything's acceptable. And we do require, which is somewhat unique, and I shouldn't say it's unique in this area, Minnehaha County has the same requirements, that it does have to be permanently affixed to the ground. So we don't allow it to just be taken off and skirted. It has to be permanently placed on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
thank you.
All right, this time we'll ask the applicant to come forward and speak.
Hi, I'm Sarah Thomas. I think Toby covered the conditional use application pretty well. It is for a mobile home. I purchased the land in June, and I'm just looking forward to getting to live on it as quickly as we can.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Is this a new home or a?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the manufactured home is is it new or used or?
It's brand new from, we have Centennial Homes on the T exit. We're working with them, and they're getting it manufactured.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I will ask anybody in favor of the application to come forward and speak. All right, I'll ask anybody in opposition of the application, come forward and speak. Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public input, and I'll ask a motion from the commission.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions. This is Hogan.
Second, Green.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Commissioners, any discussions? All right, hearing none. All I gotta say is moving out of the country, your own acreage, that's fun. That's gonna be nice. Good for you. All right, I'll do roll call. Commissioner Hogan,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
and Commissioner Jungley is also a yes. Congratulations. All right, with that, we'll move on to, just want to make sure, I guess sometimes I get so excited I forget stuff. All right, new business, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. So there was one item that was considered by the Board of Commissioners since your last meeting, and that was the rezone application for Lot 1 of MCC Edition. If you recall, and I'll pull it up just to reference the location of that for you. So it was the petition to rezone this property from the C Commercial District to the I-1 Light Industrial District. If you recall, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended not to rezone the property. The Board of Commissioners did conduct a public hearing since your last meeting, and they, on a 3-2 vote, upheld your recommendation, so the property was not rezoned to the I-1 Light Industrial District. And so if you recall, the property was rezoned to C Commercial in 2019. The applicant did have a plan at that time for warehousing or mini storage on the property. So that, based on the size of it, anything over 10,000 square feet will require a conditional use permit. So I anticipate a conditional use permit would be forthcoming on that property. Or the ordinance does allow the applicant a waiting period of 6 months and then come back and reapply for the same petition to go to there. One other thing that I just wanted to briefly, quickly mention on this is it did come up at the Planning Commission public hearing. It came up at the Board of County Commissioners meeting about the proposed drainage channel on the north side of that property. And so I wanted to kind of address that real quickly and not get into it too much. But if you recall that when we rezoned the property in 2019, at that time, the county had sole jurisdiction over that property as far as subdivision authority and improvements. Since that time, the city of Harrisburg annexed the new school that's taking place on Louise, and that pushed out their subdivision authority. So now this property is under the subdivision authority of the city of Harrisburg. So the Planning Commission did approve, and the County Commission approved the rezone to commercial. They also approved their preliminary subdivision plan, as well as staff approved the final subdivision plan, which is really the complete level of approval for the site development. When the city of Harrisburg expanded their boundaries and assumed that area, that plan became somewhat null and void. Because we don't have authority as staff anymore, or the county, to do that. I'm still working behind the scenes with the city of Harrisburg and the applicant because I think we had a good plan there. It was one of the first plans that we really went through the drainage analysis, the new standards for the drainage analysis. So I'm in hopes that through the conditional use permit process, when it finally comes to fruition, that we would still be able to enforce that plan, because I think the neighbors want to see that plan. I think we want to see that plan as a county, because I think we still see it's a good plan. But it's just kind of a recognition, and I think sometimes we kind of when I say, well, we don't have authority, everybody's like, well, okay, yeah, you're the government, you have authority. Well, no, there's lines and boundaries that need to take place. And what's unique about this situation is that Harrisburg is expanding, within a frame that, it's changing every day. For instance, and it's the first time that I've ever seen it happen, is we had 2 active building permits in Tom Sawyer Edition, which is, it's right along Minnesota Avenue. It's that development. 272nd would be south of that. We had 2 houses under construction in that area that got annexed at the time that it was still under construction. And so, I worked with staff at the city of Harrisburg to complete the inspections of it because I didn't think it was proper that legally we could just say, no, we're done here, but we're in the midst of a construction project there. So we did work with city staff at Harrisburg to complete that inspections and those approvals. But it does create challenges when it's, when things are changing so fast to make sure. And the challenge for the homeowner too is they're caught in the middle of this is what's gonna happen here too. So it's something that we're continually, well, what I'll say all the time, which you guys know is communication coordination. It's really critical to everything we do. And so I just wanted to, I didn't mean to go too far on that, but really just address the issue because I know a lot of the public saying, well, how come we don't enforce this or make people do that? Well, can't. In some areas we can't, even though we'd gone through and promised and we'd seen things and we'd seen plans and all other stuff. Sometimes those things move so quickly that it just changes like that. So, but with that, they did uphold your decision. That was your last item, unless you have any questions that you would like for me tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Commissioners, any additional questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I go to the last item, and that's adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second, Johnson.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.